And now from Baseball America, Teddy Cahill joins us to talk about the opening weekend of the college baseball season and the first poll of the year after the preseason rankings. So, Teddy, let's start right there. First of all, you guys decided to go ahead and put your poll out first thing Monday morning instead of waiting until the conclusion of the games that were being played on Monday. What went into that decision?
You know, I only briefly considered delaying it. I mean, when you look at it, yeah, there were those 3 games in Arlington, but beyond that, there wasn't a ton on Monday. There were the Vanderbilt doubleheader, but I just think this is going to happen more often this year. That because of the uncertainty of the season, there might be some more Monday games, and Monday's a big day for us, so we're just rolling with it. They put out an AP basketball poll every Monday. There are big games on Monday every day or every week. So, why can't baseball be the same?
All right, so baseball was the same, and you had a new number one. You took Ole Miss to number one. What did you see from the Rebels that you thought made them deserving of that top spot in the first week poll after the preseason?
Well, importantly, this stuff doesn't happen in a vacuum. So as impressive as Ole Miss was, and it was a very impressive weekend for the Rebs over there in Arlington, you also had Florida, UCLA, and Texas Tech combining to win 2 games this weekend. So that opened up some stuff at the top of the rankings. And, Ole Miss is they're coming out firing. It doesn't look like they missed much of a beat, if at all. Since last season, they're still riding that winning streak. I was impressed with just kind of the overall play. You had, some good bullpen performances. Derek Diamond pitched really well. Gunnar Hoagland was solid. You had guys picking up Doug Nikhazy on Saturday, and then when you look at the offense, there were some impressive performances from Chattanooga and from Jacob Gonzalez, Hayden Dunhurst. There were just a lot of guys doing a lot of things really well against some high-level competition.
You've got Virginia number 2, and it's interesting to me when I kind of compare it to some of the other polls. You've got them a lot higher than anybody else does. What is it about Brian O'Connor's team that you think merits them being the second-best team in the country after just a weekend?
I've been really surprised by how lukewarm some other folks are about Virginia, but I also think that if you go and you look at some of those other polls and where they have UVA today versus where they had UVA in the preseason, they jumped them up pretty good this week. And that's because UVA is crazy talented. Like, it's unbelievable how much talent they have there, considering, what other folks were evaluating them on coming into the season. The rotation is one of the best in the country. They have a really good bullpen, anchored by Stephen Schock, who is like a 6th-year closer for them. The lineup is deep. Chris Newell was a potential Freshman of the Year player last year, and he has not started the season off well, and they have not missed a beat offensively. So I just love the talent. And then what they did to UConn over the weekend, UConn wasn't ranked, but that's a team that is expected to be the Big East favorite and has been a consistent regional team for the last several years. So I think that was a really nice, solid win for them over the weekend in Charlottesville.
What happened at UVA for a couple of years? I mean, there were probably some folks that looked at them and said, okay, they won a national championship. They were, a couple of trips to Omaha, really had everything rolling. And then they just kind of went away and had a couple of bad seasons, but have really come back in a big way. What is it that has allowed UVA to kind of have a resurgence after a couple of years, wandering in the wilderness, if you will?
Yeah, I think that is one of the big questions, and I hope this year I can find some time to get with Brian O'Connor to see how he's evaluated, their return to prominence. But from the outside looking at it, I think they were hurt by the draft. Now that's not unique, that happens to every program, but I think that they were hurt pretty badly. 1 or 2 of those years, when you fall behind like that in a conference like the ACC, sometimes it takes you a little while to dig out of it. But they've also done a really nice job recently at getting high-end pitching prospects to campus in a way that they kind of always had, but maybe haven't done quite to the same level. And that's allowed them to not only build good depth, but they now have some really high-end talent as well. And, I think that that's a school that is going to, attract really good players. You have a national championship. You have a really nice ballpark there. You have high-end academics. It's a good package. And sooner or later, that group there in Charlottesville, led by Brian O'Connor, is going to rise back to the top. And that seems to be what's happening here this year.
Teddy, I'm curious. Visiting with Teddy Cahill from Baseball America, you obviously decided to go with the poll after a couple of days' worth of results. If you had one more game in the sample size for Mississippi State and you had that win against Texas Tech that they put in the win column yesterday, would you have moved Mississippi State up at all from that spot at 8 where you've got them?
Maybe they jumped Florida 7. Florida was really hard to rank this week. They were the number one team coming into the season. We thought very highly of Florida, and then they come out and go 1-2 at home against Miami in a series that they really should have won, that they had won. They were up 3 runs going into the 9th on Saturday. Just close that game out and you win the series. Instead, they wind up taking a series loss there at home. So they wind up being a really impossible team to rank, and maybe at Mississippi State 2-1, we would have had to shove them ahead of the Gators. But, right ahead of them is Arkansas, which went undefeated this weekend. And, then you're looking at Louisville and Vanderbilt, and we thought highly of them coming into the season, and they're undefeated right now. And then Miami has the loudest series win. So it would have been hard to move Mississippi State up higher than maybe one more spot.
You can correct me if I'm wrong on this, and I'm happy to say that I'm wrong. But I feel like traditionally when you watch the polls, the teams that are in the top 5, top 8 at the beginning of the year, once the season begins, generally kind of stay there. And I know there are some exceptions, but generally speaking, if you're good enough to be ranked in the top 5, you tend to stay in that top 5 to top 10 range for the majority of the season. You kind of see those results manifest themselves when you get to the postseason. When you look at this Ole Miss team, do you see staying power at number 1 for a while, or at least in the top 5 for a while, or are you concerned that, they maybe take a step back?
I think they do have staying power. This is, a team that we had ranked in the top 5 coming into the year, so clearly felt pretty good about it to begin with. And then, again, they played well this opening weekend. I didn't see anything untoward, particularly. I trust Doug Nikhazy will have better days ahead of him, and Gunnar Hoagland's control is going to be more like what you've come to expect from Gunnar Hoagland. And even if it's not like Gunnar Hoagland was bad this weekend. And, some of the offense that, some of the individual hitters who have started a little slower than some of their teammates, like they'll get better as their teammates fade. And so I see a complete team here, I guess is the short answer. And yes, I think they do have staying power. In the SEC, it's really hard to stay at number 1 for multiple months in a row because at some point somebody is going to beat you on a weekend. So when you look at some of the really long runs at the top of the rankings over the last few years, you see like UCLA and you see Oregon State. Because, in the Pac-12 in those years, they were just far and away the best. So just no one was really testing them that much even. They were getting tested, but nobody was really challenging to knock them off in a series. And the SEC just doesn't work like that. But I do think that this is an Ole Miss team that is going to spend a lot of the year in the top 5. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, a quick thought, about a minute or so left until we wrap up. Based on the results of what you saw from the Big 12, are TCU, Texas Tech, and Texas not good teams, or were they just outmatched this weekend, or 2 of the 3 pretty legit, but maybe Texas isn't? What do you see there?
It's really hard to evaluate because I don't fully – it's hard for me to understand exactly what they went through this week, right? Because – we all saw the pictures from Austin. We know what was happening in Central Texas in terms of that storm. So how much did that affect them? Maybe it didn't affect them at all. Maybe I'm cutting them slack where they don't need slack getting cut. But I think that's tricky. Texas Tech was so close to winning like 2 of those games. You flip those results, and this whole conversation is completely different. So I wouldn't freak out about any of it. I think one thing we definitely did see from Texas that was already a concern that kind of got borne out again is just, are they going to have enough offense? That's something they're going to have to work on. But I feel like those 3 teams are still going to be among the better teams in the Big 12. And, opening weekend, sometimes weird things happen, and this year even more so.
Teddy Cahill from Baseball America. Teddy, we always enjoy visiting with you. Hopefully it's pretty much every week, if not close to it throughout the season. We'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Always happy to do it.
Teddy Cahill from Baseball America. This is Sports Talk Mississippi, streaming at SuperTalk.